Alright, what's up guys? Ryan with All Bait Security here, back with another video. Now in this one, I wanted to cover some basic Linux privilege escalation, kind of break down for you guys what to look for, or even more specifically, what the normal output would look like when you run some of these post-exploitation information gathering scripts. So by that I'm talking about stuff like LinEnum or LinPs or any kind of post-exploitation scripts, because there's so much data that you get back once you run these scripts, and if you don't have a lot of experience with Linux or with running these scripts even, it might be a little overwhelming and you won't really know what to look for. So I'm going to try and break that down in this video, or at least show you and sort of step through the output, that cumbersome output, so that you guys are less intimidated by it when you run this. Because make no mistake, you'll definitely need to use this on OSCP. Now, probably you won't use this on the job. I mean, you might if you're working on like more of like the server side security stuff, or doing some kind of security research or something. You might be looking for these. As a pen tester, you probably won't be doing too much privilege escalation, but certainly a good thing to know, just to be a well-rounded attacker as well. So let's just get right into it. I have a shell here through SSH on the Open Admin box. Now, if I go ahead and open up, a new window on my Kali box, I have a whole set of scripts that we can run for the post-exploitation. So if I go into Priv, this is just where I personally chose to store this stuff. I got a number of things for what's in Linux. Let's see. So we got a Linux exploit suggester, Unix. We're gonna step through this one at a time, right? In this video, I'm kind of winging it here, but we'll cover, because all these things essentially do the same thing. But I don't want to confuse you guys too much. Let's just pick one, right? We'll do LinEnum. This one is, I think, one of the oldest ones, tried and true. I've run this many times on the OSCP and on different CTFs, and it gets the job done pretty well, I would say. So the first thing you do, if you don't have this, it's not on your Kali by default as far as I'm aware. If you don't have it, you just Google LinEnum, GitHub or something. You'll find a GitHub link to it, and you can just pull it down as you normally would. So once you've done that and you've made it executable and everything, you can use like a chmod plus X to make it executable. Once you've done that, you need to host it on your attacker box, right? So however you prefer to do that, I prefer to do the simple HTTP server module from Python. And I'll put that out on port 80. Let me just verify my IP address here, 10.10.14.20 in this case. So I have this hosted out on my box here. So if I go to the SSH one, now here's what I like to do, right? I like to go to dev shm for two reasons. One, it's normally writable for most accounts, so it's not typically going to give you a permission denied. You'll be able to write to it. And another reason is it exists in memory. It gets wiped out whenever periodically, or definitely when the system reboots. So it's a little bit more less of a forensic footprint, I guess you would say. So I mean, not foolproof, of course, but a little bit less. If I would put it on another, like say the temp directory, right? Temp directory gets cleared out as well, but anyways, from here, what I would like to do is I normally use wget. Since we're on Linux, it's an easy way to grab like a text file, right? Which that is what a shell script is, essentially. So we're going to supply it with our IP address and the name of the file, which was LinEnum.sh. And once we have it, we're going to need to make it executable, of course. And then we can straight up run it like this. And we can also tell it thorough. We can give it a more We can give it like a command to run like even more in-depth testing, but for demonstration purposes, this will be enough. This is what I would always start out with anyways. I would always start out with the regular. So let's just go all the way to, scroll all the way to the top here, and we'll step through this. See how just jam-packed full of information this thing is, right? Looks like I went a little too far up. All right, here it is. This is the start of it here, right? So it's going to run. What it does is it automatically runs a lot of key Linux commands to give you just tons of information, right? So you can see, for example, the operating system and the release of it. This is Ubuntu 18.4 Bionic. So where this could come in terms of a privilege escalation standpoint is if you see something really old, then it might be, chances are, vulnerable to some kind of kernel exploit. So you can look up the kernel exploit for it and get your root shell that way. So that's what we're looking for there. Host name is just the name of the box, and you'll see your current user, what group it belongs to, the UID, GID. So obviously if this is part of some elevated privilege group, then that could lead to privilege escalation, right? And you can see the different accounts on the system here, who else is currently logged on, and all the different groups and the memberships here. And then the contents of the etc password file will give you information on if you see a password hash here instead of an X, that means it's hashed here instead of the etc shadow file. That's something we could try to crack, right? But in this case, it's in the etc shadow file as it should be, so nothing off of that really. And if this is world writable, then that's an easy route, by the way. If we're able to write to etc password, we just write in our new user, put the password hash to a password we create, and add ourselves to the root group, and then we will have elevated account access, right? So yep, that's pretty standard there. The super user is called root, and looks like you do have no password to nano, which it calls out. It actually calls this out for you. It says, hey, you have sudo access without having to provide any password to run nano. So this is a possible privilege escalation here. So that's what's nice about this. It'll, in yellow text, scream out, hey, potential privilege escalation through this, right? So really nice. And when we keep stepping through this here, we'll see the permissions for the different home directories, and a little bit more information on the system, the shell that you have as your user, and all of that stuff. And you can see all the stuff in your path. So this is stuff that you can run without having to provide the full path, because it's an environment in your path environment, right? And then all the shells you have access to. And then beyond that, you can see, and I haven't, there's probably, this stuff goes so deep that there's even privilege escalation opportunities that I probably haven't come across before. Just full disclosure there. I'm just trying to give you as much of my knowledge transfer as I can. Cron jobs, right? These are things that are run automatic, like on a timer. So think of like Windows Task Scheduler. It's kind of like that, but on Linux. So you can see like what are the automated scripts that are getting run, jobs that are getting run, right? On an hourly basis, monthly, weekly, all that. And you basically, like, this is what it kind of normally looks like. You look for anything abnormal, right? Easy for me to say, hard for you to probably understand until you've ran this a bunch of times on different systems. Then you start to notice anomalies more easily. That'll come with time, so don't worry too much about that. Just know that this stuff is all pretty normal here, because actually the privilege escalation path is, as this thing predicted, it is through that nano with that file, running that as sudo. So you can expect that everything else here is what it would normally look like if it was secure, right? Here's the networking information. You'll be able to see if it's dual NICed. In this case, it just has one NIC here. This is just the loopback, your local. And then beyond that, it has some ARP information here from the MAC address and stuff, And then the DNS name server stuff here, nothing too interesting there. You can see if it's listening on anything abnormal here. Looks like it's got some MySQL. That's pretty standard. If you have MySQL, it'll be listening off the local address. And then this one here was an abnormality, actually, that originally led us to getting a shell on the system, by the way. Yeah, you normally wouldn't see that. Here's the running processes. You can see what's running as root. Okay, normally you see a bunch of these in the brackets. I'm not really sure what these are. People that are more knowledgeable than me would probably know. But typically you don't really worry about these from a privilege escalation standpoint. What we're looking for are any of the programs running as root, here, right? Like say, if this Apache stuff was running as root, it looks like this one is, interestingly enough. But if any of the services are running as root and we're able to exploit those services and through RCE or something, then we would be the root account and we would have the highest level of privilege. So, and that's what you kind of look for there. And then here's the permissions of various binaries. You look for sticky bits and stuff like that. If you can see something that has that sticky bit here, then a lot of times you can use that for privilege escalation. And yeah, there's just a bunch of different permissions here on various binaries. So we can just kind of skim through this. But this is what it looks like when there's nothing too interesting with it, right? And yeah, there's a lot of binaries, as you can see here. Yeah, and these, I normally, nothing too interesting here. Okay, so now you go down here, you can see the version of sudo and MySQL and the various different stuff that's running on the system here, right? You can see the Apache module, so if there's a vulnerable module, if we wanted to do further enumeration on these modules, we could. And some interesting files are on the server. Oh, okay, this thing has netcat, wget curl. It's honestly pretty standard, but here we go. It's going to see, can we read/write sensitive files? And you see here that we cannot because this is owned by root, and all we can do is read this file. That's per usual. Etsy shadow, we can't even read it. That's pretty standard there as well. So nothing off of that. But a nice little view to easily see at a glance, right? Here's the sticky bit files. Here's all the stuff that are sticky bit, set UID. Set UID and set GID are important, but there's certain things that are supposed to be that, so they're not necessarily, there's not going to be a vulnerability just because they're set UID. But yeah, like these ones, they need to be set UID files, and these ones need to be set GID files. But I would look for anomalies, right? This is what no anomalies looks like. And POSIX capabilities, all the configuration files here, and then here's where the history is stored. Looks like they're piping it to dev null, so we won't have anything there really. There's nothing in the bash history, but that's a good thing to check as well, of course. And then some backup files if they exist. So, but we don't have permission to do anything with them and view them or anything. So yeah, that is me just stepping through the entire output of LinEnum.sh, as well as sort of breaking down what sort of things that I'm looking for and how that applies to privilege escalation. So I hope that really helps clarify a lot of things for you. I'll be making future videos of these. I'm going to step through the different ones as well, because you have different options as far as various Linux Priv-esque scripts that you can run. So we'll step through the different ones in the coming videos and get more and more familiar with this stuff. So yeah, if you guys like this content, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Definitely helps me out with the algorithms, and I will see you guys in the next video.